The candles burned down to nothing. The seat across from her stayed empty. Nia Bennett sets the last fork in its place. She is Black, an American art curator, 30 years old, alone in a penthouse that is not built for waiting. She smooths the black dress. He chose it. 3 years married tonight. She lit every candle herself. Her husband is Kang Min Jae. They call him the Black Serpent. A fine-line serpent coils up the right side of his neck and vanishes under his collar. He commands rooms without raising his voice. He forgets nothing. Tonight, he forgot her. The dinner goes cold. The wine warms in the glass. She does not cry. She packs a suitcase instead. He comes home to the dark table and the bag by the door. His watch catches the candlelight. He offers promises, practical ones. Not one apology. She says only this: "You didn't forget the date. You forgot that I was waiting." She leaves for a quiet apartment. He posts men in the shadows outside, still trying to hold what he refuses to choose. But someone made him forget on purpose. And the empty chair at that table was never an accident. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Nia struck the third match before the first two caught. The wax was already soft, the wicks damp from the ones that had drowned in their own pools. She steadied the flame with a cupped hand and touched it to the last candle, 12 of them now, running down the center of the table she had set for two. She stepped back to check the line. Straight. She adjusted one fork a fraction anyway. The dress was the black one. He had chosen it in Seoul, 2 winters ago, pulling it off the rack without looking at the price. She smoothed the sleeve at her wrist, where the fabric met her wedding band. 3 years tonight. The clock over the mantel read 8:40. She had told the cook to leave at 7. She wanted to serve it herself. The galbai sat under a cloth, the rice keeping warm, the wine breathing on the sideboard the way he liked it. She poured a single glass and did not drink it. Her phone lay face up beside her plate. She had checked it at 7. At 7:30. She turned it over now so the dark screen faced the table. Across the city, Min Jae had not looked at a clock in 4 hours. The War Council table was longer than the one at home, and no one had lit a candle on it in years. 12 men sat around it in the low room beneath the office, and every one of them wanted something from the man at the head. The serpent inked up the right side of his neck moved when he turned to listen. "They took the Incheon route last night," Doshik said, low, at his shoulder. 2 trucks. Gone before the border. Min Jae studied the map. He did not raise his voice. That was the thing men feared most in him, that he never had to. "Then we closed the route," he said. Hae-rin slid a folder across the table to him, cold and precise, her pearls catching the light. She had sat at his right all evening. Her tablet had buzzed twice, with a reminder she had set weeks ago, and silenced without a glance. She said nothing about it. She turned another page instead. "Sign here," she said, "and here." He signed. The clock on the far wall passed 9, and no one marked it. At home, Nia snuffed the first candle with her fingers. She did it without deciding to. The heat pinched, and she let it. Then the second. Then she stopped, because putting them out felt like admitting something, and she was not ready to admit it yet. She sat. She waited the way she had learned to wait in this marriage, with her back straight and her hands quiet in her lap, the way you wait for a man who is always almost home. At 9:40, she stood and went to the bedroom. She did not slam anything. She opened the closet, took down the soft-sided case from the shelf, and set it open on the bed. Then she folded. The cream blouse, 2 sweaters, the camel coat, though the case would barely hold it. Her hands were steady, and that steadiness frightened her more than shaking would have. She had watched herself hope for 3 years. She was tired of the sound of her own hoping. She left the wedding band on the nightstand, then picked it up again and slid it back on. That was for later. That was a decision she had not finished making. She zipped the case halfway. The council broke at 10:50. Min-jae rose, and Hae-rin rose with him, and only then, gathering the signed pages, did she let the silenced reminder surface on her screen where he could not see it. She closed the folder over it. "Get some rest," she told him. "Tomorrow is Incheon." He did not answer. He was already thinking about the drive. It was the elevator that told him, a small screen inside it, the date beneath the hour, white numbers he had passed 1,000 times. He looked at it again. His hand went to his jacket, to the phone he had left in a drawer at 7, so the room would not see him distracted. And he understood, before he found it, what he had done. Do-shik saw his face change. "Boss? Bring the car around." He was through the front door of the penthouse in 14 minutes. He knew the moment he crossed the threshold, the smell of food that had gone cold, the dark hall, and light. One thin line of it under the bedroom door, at the end of a corridor where every other room had gone black. The dining table stopped him first. 2 places, 12 candles, all of them dead now, thin ribbons of smoke still rising from a few. The galbai under its cloth, untouched. 2 wine glasses, one full, one dry. He set his hand flat on the back of her chair. It was cold. He walked to the bedroom and opened the door. Nia was sitting on the edge of the bed with the half-zipped case beside her. She did not stand. She had heard the car, the door, his steps. She had heard all of it, and stayed exactly where she was. He looked at the case. Then at her. He had faced men with guns and not moved his face. He moved it now. "I lost track of the hour," he said. "There was a situation. I can fix this." She looked at him for a long moment, and something in her went very quiet, the way a room goes quiet when the last guest has finally gone. "You always can," she said. He took a step toward her. She raised her eyes to meet his, and they did not ask him for anything anymore. "You didn't forget the date," she said. "You forgot that I was waiting." He did not tell her she was wrong. He told her what he would do. "I'll clear the calendar. A week. We leave the country." He crouched to her level, elbows on his knees, the way he closed a deal across a table. "Name the place. It's done." Nia watched his mouth move and heard a man solving her. "I don't want a week," she said. "I wanted a Tuesday." He blinked. The word landed somewhere he had no plan for. She stood, lifted the case off the bed, and walked past him into the hall. He did not block the door. That was the strange part, the part she turned over later. A man who bent whole cities let her carry her own bag to the elevator without touching it. Elias opened his door before she knocked twice. He took the case from her hand, looked at her face, and asked nothing. He put clean sheets on the spare bed and a kettle on, and sat across from her at his small kitchen table until 3 in the morning, saying almost nothing, which was the most useful thing anyone had done for her all night. "Stay as long as you want," he said. "This door only opens for you." By morning, there was a second door she hadn't asked for. She saw it from Elias's window at 9. A black sedan, parked across the street, engine off, a shape behind the wheel that did not read a phone, or drink a coffee, or leave. At noon, it was still there. At 4, a different car sat in the same spot, and the man in it wore a plain dark coat and looked at the building the way Do-shik looked at everything, as a set of exits. Her phone lit with a message from a number she knew by heart. 3 words, "You are safe." She turned the phone face down on the sill. That was his answer. Not a call, not a name at the door, a ring of men she never agreed to, watching the street so no harm could reach her, and never once asking whether being watched was the harm. He had heard her say she wanted to be chosen, and had sent guards to prove she was owned. She called him once. He picked up on the first ring. "Pull them back," she said. "I can't." "You mean you won't?" "Nia?" A pause, the only softness he allowed himself. "There are things moving right now that I will not lose you to. Let me keep the perimeter. That's all I'm asking." "You're not asking," she said, and ended it. Across the city, in a room without windows, Doshik was asking a different question. He had spent 2 nights walking the war council backward, the Incheon leak. The rival trucks that always chose the one route left open. He laid the shipping logs beside the council schedule and found the scene where they met. Information that had left the room before the men in it finished deciding. Someone at the table, he told Min-jae, not a wire. A person. Everything they took, we discussed the night before. Min-jae stood very still. Since when? Doshik set down one more page. A phone record, internal, a line pulled from the building's own system. The reminder, he said, the night of your anniversary. It was live on Hayrin's tablet the whole council. Silenced from her hand at 7:02. He let that sit. She didn't forget to tell you the date, boss. She held it. The serpent on Min-jae's neck did not move, because he did not move. That's not a leak, Doshik said, quieter. A leak wants money. This wanted you here, in that room, until the marriage broke. Someone spent an anniversary to do it. He met his boss's eyes. They're not after a route. They're after the house. At Elias's building, Nia went out for the first time in 3 days. She needed air and coffee, and to feel like a woman who chose her own corner. She walked 4 blocks. At the 3rd, she noticed the man in the gray scarf. At the 4th, she noticed him again, on the opposite side now, matching her pace. And her stomach dropped in a way the parked cars had never managed. Because this one was not Min-jae's. Min-jae's men stood still and let you see them. This one moved and did not want to be seen. She stopped at a shop window and used the glass. He stopped too, half a block back, and lifted a phone to his ear without dialing. Her own phone buzzed against her palm. Doshik. She had his number only for emergencies, and she had never once needed it. Miss Bennett. His voice was flat and fast. The men across from your brother's building. Describe them. Dark coats, 2 shifts. They don't hide. Those are ours. A beat. Is there anyone who isn't? She looked at the gray scarf in the glass. He was gone. That was worse than if he'd stayed. Yes, she said. Silence on the line, and in it she understood the whole shape of the thing at once. The guards outside her door had never been the cage. They were the wall. And a wall means someone on the other side, already close, already counting her steps, already 3 days ahead of the man who thought he was protecting her. Don't move, Doshik said. Stay in a crowd, we're coming. She pressed her back to the shop's brick and watched the street fill and empty, every face a question now. Somewhere across the city, Min-jae was reading a phone record with her wedding night's date on it, learning that the hour he'd lost had not slipped from him. It had been taken, handed to a stranger, unwrapped, and used to open her door from the inside. The forgotten anniversary was never a mistake. It was the first move. Han Soo-min zipped the last garment bag and held out the tablet for a signature. The charity gallery would not run itself, and Nia had built the evening for 6 months. The restored ink scrolls, the sponsors, the ballroom loaned by a foundation that used her name like a jewel. Doshik had said stay in a crowd. A gallery of 400 donors was the largest crowd she could reach. You don't have to do this tonight, Soo-min said. Yes, I do, Nia said. She fastened the thin necklace at her throat. If I hide, he gets to keep watching the street. Tonight, I stand in a room that's mine. She did not tell Soo-min about the gray scarf. She told Doshik instead. One line before she left. I'll be at the Haewon Gala until 11. Public. His reply came fast. 2 men inside. Leave when I tell you, not before. The ballroom filled by 8. Nia moved the floor the way she'd been trained to move it. A hand on an elbow, a name recalled, a scroll explained in 3 sentences that made a banker feel cultured. For 2 hours, she was not a woman who'd carried her own suitcase to an elevator. She was the reason these people had come. Choi Sung-ho was there. She knew his face from the estate, the head of security who'd once walked her to a car. He stood near the coat check in a dark gray suit, turning a silver ring on his finger, and when their eyes met, he inclined his head with a warmth that made her relax by a single degree. One of Minjae's. She let herself breathe. At 10:40, her phone lit. Doshik. Change. Don't leave the main hall. Something's wrong at the east exit. She turned toward Sumin to relay it, and found Sung-ho already at her side, close, his hand light at her back. Miss Bennett, Doshik radioed. There's a threat at the west doors. We move you out the east, now, quietly. He steered her before she'd finished hearing him. My car's waiting. Don't make a scene. East. Doshik had said east was the danger. The floor tilted under her. She let him walk her 3 steps toward the service corridor, while her mind ran the numbers. Doshik on the phone said one door, this man said the other. Both could not be Minjae's. She thought of the gray scarf that moved and did not want to be seen, and of a silver ring turning. My assistant, Nia said. I don't leave without her. No time. Then I'm not going. She planted her nude heels and did not move, and it cost her everything to say the next thing lightly. Get Doshik on the radio. Let me hear him tell me east. Something changed in Sung-ho's face. Not anger, just the small recalibration of a man revising a schedule. His hand closed harder at her back, and in that grip she understood the whole architecture of the last 3 weeks. The forgotten anniversary. The wall of guards. She had not been the target of any of it. She had been the pressure point, the soft place you press to make a hard man come running to the exact room where you're waiting. The invisible wife, unwatched for one evening, made visible now as bait on a hook. She had been used to open a door, and now she was the door. Walk, Sung-ho said, quiet, pleasant, for the donors nearby. Or Su-min doesn't drive home. Nia walked, not because he'd won, because the corridor had a fire panel 40 feet down that she'd noted during setup, the way she noted every exit in every room she staged. She let him steer her toward it, matched his pace, made herself small and frightened so his hand would ease, and when it eased, she drove her elbow back, twisted free of the grip, and slammed her palm flat against the red panel. The alarm tore the building open. 400 donors turned into a single animal, moving toward the light of the main doors. Sung-ho lunged and caught only the necklace, which broke and scattered gold across the marble. Nia went the other way, into the crush, using the crowd exactly as Doshik had told her. A woman in black in a river of black coats, one more silhouette among hundreds. She reached the coat check. Behind it, a second corridor. Ahead of her, at the far end of it, 2 figures in dark coats she prayed were the men Doshik had planted. Behind her, Sung-ho's voice, no longer pleasant, saying her name once into his lapel. The corridor doors ahead swung open. Not Doshik's men. 3 strangers, gray and fast, filling the frame, and between them and Sung-ho closing at her back, she had 4 feet of hallway and no name left to call. Her phone was gone, dropped somewhere in the stampede. The fire alarm screamed. The gold from her necklace still rolled across the floor behind her, tiny and useless. She pressed her spine to the wall and did the only thing she had left. She reached into the garment rack beside her, closed her fist around a hanger of steel, and raised it like the small, absurd, unbreaking woman she was, cornered at both ends of a hallway that belonged, tonight, to no one who loved her. The 3 strangers came first. Nia swung the steel hanger at the closest one and it clanged off his forearm, useless, and his hand closed on her wrist and squeezed until her fingers opened. The hanger dropped. Sung-ho reached her from behind, took a fistful of her hair, and the corridor narrowed to the sound of her own breath. Then the far door blew inward off one hinge. Park Doshik came through it low, and behind him came a man in a charcoal 3-piece who did not run. Kang Min-jae walked into the hallway the way a blade goes into water, without splash, without hurry. The first stranger turned toward him, and Min-jae broke his arm across a knee and put him on the marble. Doshik took the second into the wall until the wall won. The third let go of Nia and ran, and did not get far. Sung-ho did not run. He pulled Naya against his chest and pressed something cold to her throat, and his thumb turned the silver signet ring on his other hand. Once, the small tell of a man who lies, the turn Naya had watched by the coat check an hour ago. "Stop there," Sung-ho said, "or she goes with me." Min-jae stopped. His eyes did not go to the knife. They went to the ring. "You reminded me of the anniversary," Min-jae said, quiet. "3 weeks ago. You put the date on my desk yourself." He took one step. "The only person who could pull it back off my desk was the one who put it there." Seung-ho's thumb went still on the ring. That stillness was the confession. Yoon Hae-rin had held the reminder one evening too long and said nothing. A silence, a sin of omission. But the hand that built the schedule, that turned Nia into bait, that timed the east door to the west warning, wore a silver ring it turned when it lied. Min-jae had come home to a cold dinner and blamed a legal director. The architect had walked his wife to cars for 2 years. "Do-shik," Min-jae said. Do-shik moved. Sung-ho's arm came up and Min-jae was already inside it. One hand on the wrist that held the blade, bending it away from Nia's throat until the steel clattered down among the scattered gold. Nia tore loose and hit the wall and stayed on her feet. Min-jae put Sung-ho down without heat, a knee in his spine, the ring hand flat against the floor. "You forgot the date," Sung-ho said through his teeth. "I only used what you already broke." Min-jae did not answer him. He looked at Nia. For once, he did not fill the silence. He did not list guards or promise walls or explain what he would fix. He crossed the corridor and stood in front of her and let her be the one who had survived it, and he waited and he listened. "You built a cage and called it love," Nia said. Her voice did not shake. "He walked me to the cars, Min-jae. Every time, because you never asked me what I saw. I know. You never let me choose to stay. You only made it impossible to leave." Min-jae did not defend himself. He looked at the gold on the floor, the broken necklace, the thing she'd worn to a room that was hers. "I left you alone inside my love," he said, "and that is not protection." Nia said nothing. It was the first true sentence he had ever handed her, and it did not undo 3 years, and both of them knew it, and neither pretended otherwise. By morning, the machine came apart. Do-shik traced the leak backward through Sung-ho's men to 3 accounts and a rival name, and Min-jae did not raise his voice once as he dismantled it, room by room, signature by signature. Choi Sung-ho was handed to people Nia never saw. Yoon Hae-rin kept her title for 1 week, then lost every door her title had opened. Her pearls, her clipped silences, her seat at the table, gone, quietly, the way influence dies when the man at the head of the table stops needing you. Min-jae did not put a car outside Elias's apartment. He did not call, he did not send Do-shik to watch the street. 9 days later, a message reached Nia through Han Soo-min, not through a guard, an address, a time, nothing else. It was their old apartment, the small one, from before the estate. When she opened the door, there were no candles bought by the dozen, no ballroom, no spectacle. 1 table, 2 plates. Food he had cooked himself and half burned. He was already there. He had come first, and waited, the way she had once waited for him, and his phone lay face down and dark on the counter, switched off, for the whole world, for 1 night. On the chair by the door sat her suitcase, empty now. He had brought it back and unpacked it and set it where she would see it and understand she was free to fill it again and walk, and that no one would follow her to the elevator this time. "Sit or don't," Min-jae said. "The door's behind you. It stays unlocked." She stayed standing. "Why now?" "On the night I found your suitcase, I thought I was going to lose my wife." He turned one plate a 1/4 inch, the way a nervous man does. "Only later did I understand I had been losing you for a long time." Nia looked at the empty case by the door, at the dark phone, at the man who had, for once, arrived first and asked for nothing. "Then don't hold me," she said. "Walk with me." He stood. He left the suitcase where it was. She crossed the room on her own feet. Love that lets you leave is the only kind that ever gets to stay. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever set the table and lit the candles for someone who mistook control for love? When you finally packed your own suitcase, did they give you promises, or did they finally give you the truth? And if someone you trusted engineered the silence between you and the person you love, would you recognize the betrayal before it was too late? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about love, loyalty, and betrayal, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.